Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg, entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show. And Sheryl Crow is visiting, and she's got something that I don't really know Sheryl Crow, but it sounded surprising to me that this brilliant artist, a 9-time Grammy Award recipient, with an incredible career, which is flourishing. Like, why do a documentary now? But, Sheryl, why? How come a documentary now?
Oh, my gosh, Joan, I'll be honest with you. When they came to me at the beginning of quarantine, sorry, my dogs are now barking.
That's okay. I've got one, too.
Oh, my gosh, they're so needy. Anyway, when they came to me, my manager came to me at the beginning of quarantine and said, look, you've got offers to do a documentary. This would be a great time to do it. And I said, absolutely not. Don't want to do it. And over a period of time, we discussed it more. And he's like, look, you have over 30 years of life experience, and it won't be all about the career. It's about the person. And I've thought about how much documentaries have meant to me over the years, and they aren't all about people who've already died and gone on. So I decided let's do it, but it's got to be on my terms, and hired a great documentarian or a great director, Amy Scott, and over the course of a year, we had tons of interviews, and we wound up with what we have, and I'm really pleased with it. I really love the soundtrack, which has got new songs on it as well, and so hopefully people will like it, and they'll see the journey of a person in my business as opposed to somebody famous who's reflecting on 30 years of fame.
Right, and that's what I think is the gift. Like, who knows? We see you, this incredible woman with a fabulous career. We see you as a mother, as a friend, as a daughter, a sister, all these things, but we don't really know about the struggle. You know, when people reach heights, it's easy to look in and say, well, no big deal, look what she's done, and it was easy. They don't really realize the struggle that goes on, the sacrifices to get to where you got to.
Yeah, and I think, obviously I'm from a different generation. There wasn't social media. There weren't big TV contests where you could become famous really quickly with a built-in fan base. You started out as a scrapper, and I'm grateful for that because it gave me the opportunity to figure out who I was, and it gave me the opportunity to really hone my thing. But nothing back then really happened overnight, and just navigating going from working really hard on my craft, and then all of a sudden becoming famous as a celebrity, and the two not seeming to gel. It was not without its challenges, and it was a great opportunity to talk about what it means to be a person, and particularly a woman, in my business, and still maintain some sense of self.
Yeah, well, and even the beginning with your boldness of sort of pushing your way to an audition for a Michael Jackson. He was going on tour, but you sort of, I didn't know, maybe I knew that, read that 100 years ago, but I let it go. And it was fascinating to read that because was he Michael Jackson?
Joan, I was so ballsy. I mean, honestly, I just thought, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen if I crash an audition? They can say, sorry, you can't come in. I mean, little things like that I just thought, well, I've worked really hard. I'm a nice person, and I'm just going to show up. And things did tend to work in my favor in most instances. It's crazy, but, some of those things I was already, by the time my first album came out, I was already 29. I just felt like I got no time to lose here. I'm going to go for it.
Right. And then you go through periods when you think, even with your first album, nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Nothing's ever going to happen. And you're sort of alone at moments like that, because even the consolation from a friend or a fellow musician isn't enough to pull you over at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real story is that you just have to keep walking towards the end goal. And I just wanted to be a great musician, and I wanted to be a great songwriter, like the people that I had admired. I mean, I loved and still love Stevie Nicks and the Rolling Stones and Stevie Wonder. I mean, all these people whose albums I own, James Taylor, Tapestry, Carole King, helped me to figure out who I was as a kid, and they also kind of gave me a ticket out of my hometown, and I wanted that life. And I think you just keeping on, and that was the story for me of my career. I just kept at it, kept going, kept showing up, and that can happen for anyone, but it's not going to be without its challenges, particularly as a woman.
Right. And beside Carole King, were there a lot of other women? I was trying to recall what women, as you were coming of age, were there as role models. There weren't a lot.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of women on the radio when I was coming up, like Pat Benatar and Chrissy Hine and women like that. But when I was very young, Carole King, Bonnie Raitt, Stevie Nicks, Chrissy, I had some pretty fierce role models, definitely, who seemed to take no prisoners. And when I first saw Bonnie Raitt play, that's when I thought, well, there's no reason a woman can't front the band and still rock out on a guitar. And so there were lots of women that kind of gave me permission along the way to figure out who I was. And now here we are, and we have a documentary, and I got to put 3 new songs on it, and Mick Jagger is playing on one of them, and, it all kind of comes full circle.
So I'm just curious, you have this coming out on May 6th. At this stage now, the kids are teens and growing up. Are you ready for another change, or is this a good place to hang out in for a while?
Oh man, I don't feel guilty at all in saying the last 10 years have been the happiest. The last 15 years have been the happiest years of my life. And I think when you have kids, it simplifies things fiercely. It puts everything in perspective, and all the decisions you make become easier because they are founded on what's best for my kids, and it's really made things easy. I'm undergoing all the challenges of being in an ageist industry, but right. I love my life. I love, and to be able to. We have a song that's out now called "Forever." And be able to put my kids in the documentary and
in
the
love
video.
That?
They've never been photographed. I've never, advertised my kids. So we're sort of at a really sweet place.
And the kids were probably thrilled with it. Do they love music?
They love music. My 14-year-old, who's about to be 15 next week, is, he's a little more campy, he's a little more ham. My 11-year-old doesn't want to be on or in anything of mine. He just wants a mom. He wants his mom to be normal, drop him off at school, pick him up at school, and I'm great with that. That's what I signed up for.
But it was interesting because that you wanted that all along, even with the big fame and the high points, you still wanted that life, whatever that life was. You wanted a piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really beautiful upbringing and parents who, they're still married 66 years, still going strong, and you think that's what your life's going to look like, but then you can't negate the fact that you don't have that life. Your life took you to Tokyo, and it took you to Russia, for crying out loud. And
right.
Sometimes it's not going to look exactly the same, but sometimes it's going to be amazing, and that's and that's my story.
And the story, unbelievable. I loved hearing all about the Tuesday Night Music Club and all these things that happened to you along this journey that you recognized and took part in and got over the bad and kept on going. And that's a gift, too.
Yeah, I can safely say that nobody escapes challenges. I know, I'm a breast cancer survivor. When you look at the statistics of how many women will have breast cancer, I'm in a very large community of outstanding women who have experienced the same thing I have, and it doesn't matter. Cancer doesn't care if you're famous or you're not famous. And so there's a lot to my story that I think a lot of people will relate to.
And this is a brand new documentary called Sheryl. And that documentary, May 6th, I look forward to talking to you again. Congratulations and all good things to you and your family.
Thank you, Joan. I appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
We'll talk again. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC. More ahead.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.